Welcome to Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul, a podcast introducing you to courageous souls. These people are taking their spark in life and passing it on, lighting their corner of the world. I'm your host, Tammy Sturr, best-selling author, speaker, and CEO of Author My Day, a company inspiring courage. I interview people about how they exercise their courage muscle and use their story to inspire you to live with a courageous heart. Let's get started with today's guest. Welcome to Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul. Today I have guest Laura Strachan with me. She is a retired educator, wife, mom, Lola, and now author. Laura obtained her Master's of Education from the University of Cincinnati and teaching for almost 2 decades set the stage for her latest project, publishing her debut children's book, Pickles the Mermaid. A recent move to the beautiful hills of Pennsboro, West Virginia, from Cincinnati, Ohio, where she was born and raised, allows her more time in nature with her retired sled dogs, Mistral and Scylla. She also finds inspiration in yoga, hiking, tennis, and travel. Laura, welcome to Pass It On. Where are you joining us from today?
Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a part of this today. I'm joining you from Pennsboro, West Virginia, and we live on 10 acres, and it is very beautiful. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. It's right off 50 from Cincinnati. It's about maybe 45 minutes to Parkersburg and Marietta, and then about 50 minutes the other direction towards Bridgeport, West Virginia. But it's in a beautiful location.
So you have retired sled dogs. So did you raise these sled dogs? Like, do you go sledding? Like, tell me about this story.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, my daughter was working for Outward Bound. And at that point, I was 14 years cancer free. And we hadn't had a dog for 9 months. And the last dog we had prior had cancer. And it was really sad. But I feel like your dogs are meant to like come to you. So my daughter was working on in Ely, Minnesota. And it was interesting that she even chose to do this because my husband started this legacy of going to Outward Bound and when he was 18. And then when I first met him, he's like, well, I don't know if you can hang with me. And I took like like 21 day or 23-day outdoor educators course in a Knowles course. And that was in the Wind River Range in Wyoming. So it was really beautiful. So I passed the test, and he's a rock climber, and we do a lot of hiking. And he wanted just to make sure that I was okay with the lifestyle that he was leading. And so my daughter said, Mom, it's time. We need another dog. And at that point, I had just gone to a chiropractor for exactly 1 year. And I had just finished a 500 teacher training in 2014 in May. So this was in August. And this chiropractor really helped me. And he's like, for a yoga teacher, you're doing everything that they tell you not to do. He's like, you have all this pain in your feet, and why? And I'm like, oh, because I keep resisting. And he's like, oh, so when you get pain in your legs, and I ended up getting neuropathy from all the meds I had to go on. It was uterine, it went behind the heart lymph. And the fact that I even lived through it was unbelievable. And I thought it was gonna, here I am 14 years out, and I ran 8 marathons prior, and it took a lot longer time. And I was finally just learning to walk without pain. And my chiropractor, after a whole year, he said, stop resisting, just face the pain. It's almost like your courage, face the courage. Don't be afraid, ride it through, allow it, accept it, and welcome it like you're sipping a cup of tea. So the next time I was doing this with my feet, I realized the pain went from a 10 to a 2 in a matter of real short amount of time, just from that allowing it to work in my body and work through it. So instead of avoiding it and not facing it, it's almost like fear. And your courage is when you face it, you realize, wow, I can do this. I can start to walk without pain. And so the dogs really were my salvation. They need to get out every day, and we lived right by a park. And it was a dream of mine. Actually, I started raising these dogs to go on a sled dog trip, but I was so terrified. My daughter did it, and she's like, "Mom, I don't know. It's really, really cold. I don't know if you can hack it." So since I have moved to Pennsboro about 4 years ago, I'm trying to just do everything out of my comfort zone and to really face my fears, kind of like what we're talking about, building that muscle of courage. And so I decided I'm going to do this sled dog trip in January, not this past year, but a year ago. And I really wanted to see what my dogs did for a living. So while I'm on this, it's about 8 days, and it can be below 40 degrees. And so it was really, really, I didn't know if I could hack it, to be honest. And when I went, I couldn't believe they give you all these systems, and you're with the right people. And then you learn how to layer, how to be safe. And I never felt cold. And we all worked as a team, and it was all teamwork. In fact, the dogs all work as a team. So there's a theme with that. And the dogs, we had to come up with a name for our group that went. There was probably 12 of us that went on the sled dog trip. And I kept thinking, all for one, one for all, musketeers, you know? And then I said, well, that doesn't seem right. So then all of a sudden, the gal that raised Mistral said, Husketeers. And we all love the name. So our group would always say, all for one. And then the other group would say, one for all, Husketeers. And it was just so fun, just because we all worked as a team. We worked together and we all made sure everyone stayed warm, and it was just delightful. And once I did this, I had so much more courage. I was like, wow, if I can do this, I can do anything. And the first question they gave me when I went there was, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm supposed to write a book. And they said, what? And I said, yeah, well, I don't know what it's about, but I know I'm supposed to write a book. It might be about the sled dogs. I don't know. I just know I'm supposed to write a book. And I had been wanting to do this for 20 years now. And I think the universe is great. They just keep nudging you that way. But my sled dogs were really pivotal in helping me just find a lot of joy and courage to finally take that sled dog trip. I think that's how life is. Sometimes you have these goals, but when you're ready, everything, the stars align. And even just to even write this book, everything kept lining up that I'm supposed to write this book.
Right? Yeah, which
Yeah.
we're gonna get to, but you just like dropped all of these things. Like, oh, I just spent 23 days at Knowles. And if it's the Knowles I'm thinking about, that means you went out for 23 days and lived on your own in the wilderness.
Yes.
Like, no, like making your own shelter and stuff. Is that
Yes.
what you did?
Yes. Yes.
So what did you learn about yourself going through Knowles?
Really, what I learned the most is that you can do anything when you put your mind to it, and you really have to have a positive attitude. Like when we were going through some challenges, like one of the teams got lost, I was like, oh, well, we had a call. It was like, hooty hoo, if someone gets lost. I said, well, and you had 24 hours. And I said, well, and everybody always believed me because I said, I always pick the best campsites. And that's how I always operated. So everyone come to my place and I'll make us a deep dish pizza. We'll make some really good cake. And everyone's like, wow. But what happened halfway through the course, you had to pick who you wanted to be roommates with. Well, I found these gourmet chefs. And so most of the people didn't think ahead like I did, but I had talked to them and said, when it's time to switch, you guys are on my team. So I was learning how to do all this great cooking. And then it was exactly 24 hours before the team came back. But I think just keeping a positive spirit went a long way with everyone. And then when we heard those hooty hoo calls and when they finally made it and we were whooping and being so excited that they made it and hugging, embracing, and the gal that actually led that group became an instructor. And so and they wanted me to be an instructor, but my family ended up coming next. But it was just such an incredible experience for me to realize that you can do these extreme things, and you can really, if you keep a positive mindset and positive attitude. So that was what I really learned.
So the other thing you dropped during that conversation about sled dogs is you're a cancer survivor.
Yes. So, and that I thought was not going to even happen at the time. My kids were 6 and 9. I have a son and a daughter, and
Ah,
my daughter um, was really good about it. My parents are still alive; they're 90, but they were really worried, and they took me to Lourdes. And we have relatives in France, and what Lourdes is a place of where you go in and they have like an actual bath and they dunk you in the water. And some people believe you can be cured there. And I didn't really know if that would really happen for me, but I was open to anything.
mhm.
And I really did feel like it was healing, and it was a very spiritual journey to go there. And my daughter, when she was there, she had a really bad strep throat, and she had to get her tonsils out eventually. But age 10, she was really sick, and she went in the waters and came out, and she was completely healed of her strep throat. So I don't know. I just know it. Every language was there. They're singing Ave Maria. We have candlelight service. It was a very spiritual moment for me, and a lot of people helped me when I was sick because it had spread behind the heart lymph. We weren't sure if I was going to live, and it started in the uterus. And I was only 40 at the time. I was really young, and I just kept believing I was going to be okay. And the person who helped me the most was my cousin. He had brain cancer and he had a 2% chance to live. And he said, "Oh, you can't listen to what people say." He's still alive and he had 4 kids, and he was only given a 2% chance to live. So, yeah, he really is my hero. And I really feel blessed that he helped me so much. And the biggest thing he said is to laugh. And I thought that was hilarious, but it was great advice. I used to watch all the I Love Lucy shows and the Beverly Hillbillies, and just sit by the TV and laugh hysterically. But laughter is such a great medicine. So that was something he taught me to do. He said, "Oh, you just need to really laugh."
Oh,
So
absolutely. Oh, what great advice. What great advice. So Pickles the Mermaid is your new book. Congratulations. And many times it has been said that we write the book that we most needed as a child. And your book, Pickles the Mermaid, shares your hope that children and adults alike remember the true magic within all of us to believe in yourself. Can you share a little bit about your life and where you needed to believe in yourself? And how did you find that courage to believe in yourself? Um,
yeah,
and is this the book you needed as a child, or maybe you need as an adult?
yeah, it definitely is the book. I really believe this book came to me. I actually read it on an airplane going from Seattle to visit a friend. She had a dream. I was supposed to write a book in March. She called and said, I've illustrated a book. I want you to come see me." And I was before I went to visit her in September with my husband, my son said to me, "Write about something that makes you joyous and happy." And I had been helping my niece in August of that year, and her little girl was obsessed with mermaids, and she named her mermaid Pickles, and she kept giggling, "Pickles, Pickles," and then I just couldn't get Pickles the mermaid out of my head. So I wrote the story going to Seattle because I didn't want to come empty handed to my friend who dreamed that I'm supposed to write a book, and here she's illustrated a book. But when I get there, she's like, "Oh, I love this story. It needs to be told." But she's like, "I'm not going to be the person for you because I'm so busy right now in my stage of my life. I'm not going to." It took me 2 years to illustrate. So I went home, and then I actually think things in my life have really been there's so many girls, and I think also I have a twin. I always was trying to find my own identity growing up. My parents had actually gone to different classes and they actually had us separated in school just because they wanted us to feel like we had our own identities. And I'm really close with all of my sisters, so I think it was good. And it was funny. I got really close to my sister when we went to college, even though we chose different colleges. But I realized that she was someone that really helped me to really understand and love myself, embrace myself, because I loved who she was, and we look so much alike. So I think that that muscle of courage was instilled. My parents always took us out in nature. My dad always took us to fish, and we had to be real patient and sit still. We would have, all this time we would go camping out. We went all out west. We drove with all the kids, and we would bring dogs. And my parents just always traveled with all of the girls, and we spent lots of our holidays in Florida on the beach. And I used to pretend that I was a mermaid. And so we just had a lot of really good memories as children growing up. And so Pickles, the mermaid, came to me while I was on this airplane because I wanted someone that was bullied in the story. And my son, he was bullied in school. And so I wanted her to also have some dangerous waters and some because when you are going through learning that courage muscle and doing things, sometimes you get stronger. So like even though I faced some really hard obstacles in my life, with cancer and not knowing if I was even going to live, but it made me stronger. And I'm actually grateful that I had that because it helped me to stop and to like learn how to really put mindfulness in my life. And the same with Pickles. She is on this journey and she learns these conversations of empathy, and the singing conch shell is part of something I wanted in there because I wanted music. And it's such a beautiful, moving story because the music reminds her of a lullaby. And all the kids, when they hear this, they start singing lullabies their mom sang, and it reminds you how loved you are. And so the part about the shell and understanding that in the book is also remembering you're fine just the way you are and embracing who you are. And it all just kind of came together, the story. And what I love, it's all about learning about yourself. And we're all on this journey together in life. And my teacher, Lilius, always said, the joy is in the journey. And so take time just to really enjoy those moments of now. The joy is now, is in the journey. And the story is about finding mentors and asking for help and knowing that we all have something wonderful to share. And when we embrace ourselves, we bring so much more to the world because we're aligning our passions and purpose, and we all have gifts. And when we are in tune with our gifts, we are, and it doesn't even have to be really a big gift. Like for me, when I came to this community, I found out that my neighbor didn't know how to read, and I was trained in Orton Gillingham because my son didn't needed some special help growing up. And so I became trained, but I wanted to be just his mom. But that training, I hadn't done it for over 20 years, taught my neighbor how to read. He was 14 and had dyslexia, and his dad never learned to read, and neither did his grandpa. And he just thought it was generational. And so he was homeschooled, didn't know how to read. And that was 4 years ago. And we worked 4 years and we read lots and lots of books. And then a year after I'd been working with him, their parents have really big heart. They were fostering a lot of children, all of their extended family, and their extended family ended up adopting 19 kids. And all
Wow.
the kids kept coming up to my house because they knew I could work magic with these kids. And I would go to the schools and say, no, you're not going to hold these kids back. Just give me a chance. And when at the end of the year, all the kids they wanted to hold back were fine. They just needed someone just to work one-on-one, and I knew curriculum. I knew what to do, and I worked directly with the teachers from January till they graduated at the end of May or finished that year. And so the teaching has been something that I've always enjoyed, but I also realized that I also just love children. And so when I quit teaching and never went back, I ended up nannying, and I went all over the, place in different vacations with people. And it's given me all these opportunities I probably would have never have had I have not had cancer. So I always look at the positive and look at the good. And that's something that I find in this book, Pickles, the Mermaid, that people will really find it to be a special, really special book. And there is one part of the book that I love, because when you step out in faith and you just don't always know the how or the why you're supposed to do things, but when you're ready, the teacher shows up. And that's what happened. Marion Laundry came up on my feed, and then I signed up to go, and then I went to the Believe Live, and I signed up for the next step. And you don't always know where you're going to go with it, but having all that collaboration and all that help, it really made my journey as an author so effortless, because all of the stars align in the book. And it's like that in life, that when you are willing to take that risk and go all in, things will just line up for you in your life, and you can be that shining star, and you can really make a difference in the world. And now I feel like I have a big megaphone, because I really want to have people to embrace other children for their unique individuality. And I want them to understand that being a bully is not acceptable, and how to get help. And now I have this big mission, and I'm tying that in. When I first met you, Tammy, it was at Believe Live, and you were doing some thing where you're asking me questions, and I had to like raise my hand, really feel it in my body. And when we tied it to a greater mission, I could I could really feel that. So now what I'm doing now with my book is, like, I supported Kid Power International,
Mhm.
because they give me lots of information on my launch. And I've also been supporting the children in Ghana and sent a book to, they have 8 libraries. And so that's something that I'm really excited about, is I really want to go to Ghana next year and support these children. And I have a greater mission and purpose. And last year I was like on a mission trip in Belize, and I want to go back. I have all these missional things that I want to do. So that's kind of what's been happening, is I'm tying everything to something way beyond anything I thought I could do. And it's exciting, because I'm learning that I can help so many more people than I ever thought possible.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was reading Pickles the Mermaid, which everybody needs to go to Amazon and get their copy. It is amazing. But I'm always thinking about my grandchildren. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. They're ages 4 and 5. And I opened up that book and I got to this part that I'm like, I want my granddaughter to know how to get past the shark. I want her to have that confidence to pass the shark. Laura, I feel like I'm doing this like Soul2Soul checklist. And the thing that we had in common, you mentioned Miriam Laundry, who published both of our books. And we both, have been through that same process. So we have that in common. In the Believe conference. And as you're sitting here, I'm like, special education, check. Nanny, check. Reading specialist, check. Like all of these, nature educator, outdoor educator, that was my thing, check. And like, I had no idea that we had so many Soul2Soul connections. But I want to ask you some important questions to me and to the mission that we're doing with Author My Day of Inspiring Courage. Which by the way, Pickles the Mermaid does. Like this is one of those books that I'm gonna be like recommended reading for courage. So Laura, how do you define courage and why does courage matter?
So I define courage as doing something that frightens you and doing it anyways. And so I also think about just having the strength, even if it hurts, if it's painful, like to have courage to face the pain and not be afraid if it, because I tried to resist that pain in my legs for so long. And so courage, I believe, is also from the heart, like my teacher Lilia said, and it touches all your emotions and your feelings. And so I think sometimes having courage is kind of what you did and this beautiful Believe Live is you got me just to really feel into my body. And sometimes we need to stop and take a breath because sometimes we want to go into that fight or flight mode and we feel like we're scared and want to go run and hide. We don't want to face our fears, or we don't want to be courageous. And I always like the king and I when they're like afraid and they whistle a happy tune. And 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 so I think of that. Music is really important because of my grandmother. So sometimes I just whistle a happy tune when I'm afraid. and and I love that. The King and I was just one of my favorites growing up. And so yeah, so courage to me is even if you're so afraid, but you just take that one step. And sometimes it's just a one inspired action. So yeah, I think that can tell you a lot about courage, but finding joy, sing a happy tune, do do one inspired thing, and that might light your inside on fire to find that passion and purpose and really get that alignment inside of you to find what you were made and meant to do in your life. And just like my dogs were born to pull sleds, I was born to teach, and I was born to find joy in helping children even learn how to read. And so I'm finding that my next thing I'm thinking about is my grandpa learned at a late age how to paint, and I have never done it, but I'm thinking I'm gonna take a paint class next. And I don't know if I'll be good at it, but that's something that has been really. I just got a book and I've been doing little things at a time, trying it, But I
Nice.
think I need a teacher. so, but yeah, it's just really listening to your heart, and I think we all have like a call to the heart, and listening to those little whispers that you get and from the universe, and then taking action about it, and go do those things that really light you up, and not be afraid to try something new. So
Right.
that's where I'm learning new things all the time.
So what spark do you want to be in the world?
So I just want to be a spark of kindness. I spend so much time helping others, and I don't even tell people what I do. It just gives me so much joy, just to help others. So it's like, don't be afraid. Like, there's been this girl that's been really struggling since January in my community, and I've made a difference for her, and just have been helping find resources, but really helped her to search inside. And she was almost homeless, and because she has no car, and she's just finally got a car, she finally got a job, but she's got to pass a test tomorrow. But just taking the time just to let her know that I care, and it's okay that you're in this place, but you'll get past it. She has a couple kids, and she's recently been widowed. Her husband died, and it's been rough for her. She lost a lot of things. She didn't expect to be where she is in life, but that's how it is. So it's just like, even if you're just making that one difference for one person, do it if you feel called and led to do it. And it's been my busiest time to go through a launch to still help her, but I find that I have more energy even by just helping one person. And it doesn't matter, but it does matter to her. Her kids think I saved her life because I've been just kind. And you just sometimes, when you're out there, you don't know who you're going to help. But right now, I think there's people out there that might be afraid of writing their book or following their dream. And I hope to be that spark of someone that will help them say, wow, if Laura can do this. And it took her 20 years, just to really follow up on that dream.
Mhm.
And she didn't give up. That, wow, maybe that's something I could do. So I think that we're all meant to help each other. And I think that if you take that courage step, you give others courage. And that really is where the inspiration is. And that spark for me is really just, I feel like I'm just on fire because as I'm helping others, things open up for me.
What will be better in the world because Laura was here?
Really is just love. We're here to love each other, be kind. And I love with all my whole heart, and people that know me, and that's been the best part about this journey is just loving one another.
Well, you already talked about painting. And my next question, or my last question, is always, what's next? Is there anything else that's what's next for you?
Yeah, I have a lot of stories, so I'm hoping to write another story. So yeah, I have so many stories in my head. So yeah, so we'll
Are you
see.
are you gonna
It
give us a
unfolds.
hint? Is it the sled dogs? Is it the out in nature? Is it a follow-up to pickles and like
Yeah, yeah.
a
Stay
hint?
tuned. You'll find out because I don't even know because this whole story came and I was writing a whole nother story. So and I switched gears. I had some friends that came last October. I said, I'm stuck. I can't do this other story. And they said, would you have something else? And I pulled out Pickles and Mermaid, and they're like, wait, you wrote this? I'm like, yeah. They said, well, wait. You weren't gonna write that story? I'm like, no, I didn't think that was that great. Wait a minute. So I think you just have to like even learning this whole process for me is just learning that you trust the process and don't worry, the story comes to you. And that's what I do in nature. I spend a lot of time out in nature because when you're out there you get inspiration just by having all that space and time alone and silence.
Mhm.
And so that's why I don't know what's going to unfold because it happens and it's not organic. It just happens. So we'll see. So thank you.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you for being a guest today. Such a pleasure to have you, Laura, and such a pleasure to have Pickles the Mermaid on the bookshelf. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed this. Thank you. It was such an honor. Have a wonderful day.
You too. I'm gonna thank you for listening and being inspired to exercise your own courage muscle. Please leave us a rating on whatever platform you are listening. For even more, you can go to www.authormyday.com. Remember, you only have this one life, this one day, so always author your day. Thanks for listening to Pass It On, connecting soul to soul.